Thanks for joining us today. I'm Gabe Garish, owner of Backwoods Pursuit, and today we're going to look at a couple Meopta spotting scope options here. We've got the Meopta Meostar S2 HD 82mm spotting scopes here. I've got the standard eyepiece here in the 20 to 70, as well as the wide angle, and I wanted to show you the differences between those two. If you're looking to make a decision between the wide angle or the standard, I know it was a decision that I was looking to make. I wasn't sure which route to go, so I wanted to provide some information on that. And I'm just going to go over some of the basics of these spotting scopes. They're fantastic spotting scopes. Also, make sure you check out our website, backwoodsPursuit.com. We compared these two to 17 other spotting scopes side by side to see how they stood up against the competition. I think you might find that interesting. I'll put a link to that down in the description for you, as well as a link to Facebook and Instagram. Go follow us over there. Appreciate it. Hit that subscribe and like button if you like our content. Let's get into this review. All right, so first up, let's look at some of the specs on these Meopta Meostar S2 spotting scopes. As I mentioned, they're 82mm objectives here, and you have two options for eyepiece. You have both the standard and the wide angle. They're both awesome eyepieces, really good resolution. Both have HD glass, and they both offer a barrel focus here, and they are just a really nice smooth barrel focus. Both have a rubber armor, which I really like the rubber armor that you get with these. And you also get a base plate here where you do need to have an adapter or a quick release plate for whatever tripod you're using. It's not ARCA compatible, so if you run an ARCA type tripod head, you're going to need an adapter for that, or something else like an Outdoorsman's or whatnot. You're going to make sure that you need that adapter plate for that. Now you also have a collar or a ring right here, so if you need to cant this or tilt it, particularly nice if you're looking downhill with an angled spotting scope like this, because both of these are angled. If you're needing to look downhill on a steep angle, that can get a little bit awkward, but it is made a lot easier if you just rotate that over. And there's a nice 45-degree click there, and then another click right at the very top to get it right back to where you need to be, and then just tighten that down. It's really nice and defined. Some of the spotting scopes I've tested don't have as defined of a click as this, so that is really nice to help you make sure that you are where you want to be as far as that rotating collar. Now you do also have a nice sunshade, which a lot of spotting scopes do, but it does help with glare if you're in real sunny conditions. And over here on the eyepiece, you have a nice smooth eyepiece. No click stops, it's just a smooth up and down, which I really like. I found that it gives you more adjustment, and it tends to stay in place better out in the field as opposed to some of those with click stops on them. I've just found that I really prefer that type of an eyepiece over the click stop style. And you do have 18mm of eye relief, so that combined with that smooth eyepiece and those adjustments there, it really makes for a great combination. Now as far as weight on these, they both come in at 66 ounces, just barely over 66 ounces. And so they're not a lightweight spotting scope, but if you're out west mule deer hunting or something like that, looking long distances, I'm happy to pack the extra weight because it really can save some hiking. The body here is made of magnesium alloy as well, so it does help keep the weight down even for such a large spotter, but it also super strong. Combined with that rubber armor, it really does a great job that way. So if you're like me, you might be wondering, well, should I get the wide angle or the standard? What are the differences? Well, the obvious one here, the standard gives you 20 to 70 zoom, whereas the wide angle gives you 30 to 60. Outside of that, they're mostly the same, other than you can see here, the eyepieces here, you get a larger lens here through the wide angle, and that helps with your wider field of view. Now with the wide angle, you do get a substantially wider field of view, and you'll see that here in a second when I put the phone scopes on here. That's really the biggest difference between these two, outside of the zoom, which is obvious. The field of view is much larger on the wide angle, whereas you have a little bit more of that tunnel fill on the standard, but you get the extra zoom, and you get a lower magnification if you need the lower, so wider range, but you don't have quite as much flexibility with the wide angle here. Now the other main difference here between these two, you'll see it here in a second when I put the phone scope on. The wide angle gives you a little bit of that rollerball feel or fisheye feel, whatever you want to call it. So when it's moving, you'll see kind of the edges seem to roll on you, whereas the standard doesn't do that nearly as much. So that's really my biggest complaint about the wide angle. I'm okay with it because I like the field of view I get on the wide angle better than on the standard, but I can see how that could really annoy you or be something that you really didn't care for, because when you first start using it, it's really noticeable. After a bit of use, I use this for a couple of years, I don't even notice it anymore. But on the wide angle, that is something you want to take into account, because it has a different feel to it when you're panning or scanning. So if you do a lot of that, maybe the standard is going to be a better option for you. So let's throw the phone scopes on here. I'll show you what I'm talking about. You get a pretty good idea of how these look through a camera. Of course, on the camera, you're not going to get quite as good of an image here. You never do, but to take that into consideration. But they're both just phenomenal spotting scopes. All right, so here we're starting with the wide angle. And again, this is at the lowest magnification of 30x. And even at 30x here, you just, because of that wide angle, you have a fantastic wide field of view. It's just really, really impressive that way. Great edge clarity, really good color contrast, and it just gives you a very, very large field of view to work with when you're out glassing. Now I'm going to show you a little bit here, best I can, that that kind of that rollerball or fisheye effect that I was talking about when I scan here. You might be able to pick up a little bit on the edges when we scan. That it kind of rolls a little bit, and it can be a little bit annoying to some people, but really for the most part, yeah, something you get used to, but definitely something to take into consideration. So I'm going to go ahead and bump this up to the top magnification of 60 now. And here we are up at the top end, 60x here. You still have a fantastic edge clarity, really good color contrast, and just a super crisp image. This thing is just a really impressive spotting scope. And you might notice here when we get to the higher end, you don't have quite as much of that effect, that fisheye effect or whatnot, whatever you want to call it. It goes away just a little bit at the higher magnification, but it's certainly still there a little bit. You might be able to pick it up a little with this, with the phone scope on here on the camera. So wanted to show you that. So let's jump over now to the standard eyepiece, the 20 to 70x, and we'll see the difference. All right, here we are with the standard, and this is at 20x, and probably the first thing you're going to notice here is you lose a bunch of the field of view versus the wide angle. And this 20x versus the low of 30x on the wide angle, and even with that lower magnification, you still don't have nearly as much of a wide field of view. Now, as I mentioned, with that though, you can probably tell here you don't have nearly that rollerball effect when you pan or scan. You really have a nice flat, much more flat field of view than you do with the wide angle. So that is a huge benefit with this standard. All right, and here we are at the maximum magnification of 70 now, and as you can see, you still get a great edge clarity. Again, really good color clarity, color contrast, and just a really nice sharp image. And once again, when we scan a little bit at this, you still don't have nearly that that rollerball effect. You've got a nice flat field of view with this. So just a great option. Gives you more range in your magnification with this standard eyepiece. You just don't have quite the field of view, particularly at the low end of this of the 20 to 70 standard eyepiece. So that is the Meopta S2 HD 82mm spotting scope, both the standard and the wide angle version. Some of the differences. Hopefully that's helpful for you in making your decision which route you want to go. They're both amazing spotting scopes. They hang right there with some of the best out on the market. Awesome glass, awesome HD glass, fantastic resolution, amazing edge clarity. Definitely go check out how they performed in our huge spotting scope review. Again, a link to that down in the description. But these are just fantastic. Drop any questions or comments down in the comment section. Help point you in the right direction, answer any questions for you. Love to help you out. Thanks for watching here today. We'll see you next time.